Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Over 250 million people in the iHeartRadio listening platform, the number one platform in the United States, and we are worldwide. I want to thank you for listening in today. Today is August the 16th, 2016, and I also want to say bienvenidos, and someone told me that there's another Spanish word called poquito. I'm still trying to understand what that means, Big C, but I told you I'm learning Spanish, so you better get out that verbal advantage to keep up with me, Big C. Also want to say, okay, make a run for the border before Donald Trump builds that wall. Also, London, England, thank you for listening, London, England, as well as Berlin, Germany, and the great country of Canada. Again, I think it's one of the most beautiful national anthems in the world, along with the United States, of course. Also want to say thank you very much for listening in Australia. I know you're doing well in the Olympics, especially in the volleyball games. And also Africa. I had someone from Dubai tell me that Dubai has a lot of oil, Big C, but I told them it has more oil than moonshine in the south than Dubai has oil, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Both of them, Charlton, are liquid gold when you look at it.
Okay.
You can earn a living from both of them. Dubai may produce a little more, but ours may be a little bit stronger down here.
It might be a little bit stronger. And also the advantage that you good old boys have in the south compared to the oil barons in Dubai is they pay taxes on their money. I was explaining to the guy from Dubai, he may be a billionaire with oil, but they got to give half of that money to Uncle Sam. You good old boys, we don't know how much money you guys have because you're hiding in the ground, Big C.
well, Charlton, they can't hide their distilleries. They're out in the wide open and everything.
Yeah.
We go out in the backwoods, dig a hole in the ground, and put our distilleries in there covered up with a little live brush and everything, and we able to have a decent production. But out there, you got to drill for it, you got to transport it, you got to refine it. Too much effort to make the kind of money that we make.
Too much to make the kind of money. And speaking of making the kind of money, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, Big C, I've seen more and more Cadillac Escalades all up and down the highway. What a beautiful vehicle. But also, when you talk about hiding, when the law enforcement shows up because you got to do a lot of that moonshining, if you saw the Olympics last night from anywhere in the world, one of the best events is the sprints. When you have the 100-meter sprint or the 400-meter sprint or even the 200-meter sprint. But last night, crossing the finish line, Shania Miller of the Bahamas, she fell over the finish line. In fact, she dove like she was Superwoman, and she just nipped Allison Felix from the United States in that 400-meter final. Big C, I've never seen anyone dive across the finish line. I've seen someone fall, but I've never seen someone dive. What are your thoughts on that? Should that be fair, Big C?
Well, Charlton, ironically, it happened in the U.S. Olympic trials where Allison Felix was eliminated from the 200 meters by another American runner who dove across the line during the trials, and so she did not get a chance to run in the 200 meters in the Olympics. Also, Charlton, in the last Olympics, there was an American runner in the males 400 who dove across the line, and they had him as a hero.
Yeah.
So it all depends on which country is doing it to who. You think about sliding, it's prominent in baseball, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody, is taught how to slide in baseball. John Elway became a hero sliding in the Super Bowl, scoring a touchdown, against the Green Bay Packers. So it all depends on what country and what person is doing it, whether you're going to get backlash from it or not.
Yeah.
But, the key about the Olympics, Charlton, is that it's about competitors. The broadcasters can make it good or bad.
Yeah.
And when you have broadcasters coming in, chiming in with their opinion that doesn't affect or even suggest the outcome of the race, then you have a clean race. But when you have people coming in wanting to blaspheme athletes that are down competing in the Olympics, only happens once every 4 years.
Yeah.
And, you want to sing the praise of an American athlete. Those athletes from other countries around the world, Charlton, work just as hard and compete just as hard as Americans. We want the Americans to win.
Yeah.
But we want all athletes to win and be competitive in Rio.
Yeah, that's very true, Big C. And also, when you think about the young woman, Miller's only 22 years old from the Bahamas. She finished second to Allison Felix in the World Championships last year. She took an early lead and held her off down the stretch. But I'm just very proud of the track and field sprints because it happens so fast, and you have some of the top runners in the world. and they're so well conditioned, Big C. There's always going to be a little controversy when someone flies across the finish line. Now, she could go talk to Nike. Phil Knight, Phil will ask you for that $1 million sponsorship. But this lady actually can fly. I think they said Michael Jordan used to fly, but this lady, she actually flew in the Olympics. So very proud of her. Good job for that. And also, Big C, we were talking about some of the football guys. Some of the football gods is what they call them. I think Mel Kiper and McShay. And they were the football gods about 4 months ago when we were talking about some of the top players in college football, Big C, and where they were going to be projected to go in the draft. And we had Goff and Wentz going 1 and 2 in the NFL draft, Big C, but their first performance was not very strong. And then all of a sudden, I think your good old boys, I told you I saw them on a milk carton yesterday when I was shopping for some milk and cereal. Well, McShay and also your good old boy with the hair, they showed up today on ESPN. Your thoughts on them?
When you think about Kiper and McShay, Charlton, and their prognostications before the draft, during the draft, of how great these guys were, the blasphemy of the African-American quarterbacks that, they should be projected in lower rounds because they don't have the tools, they're not polished.
Yeah, not polished.
And, all of a sudden, it's ironic after we talked about that yesterday, we're summoned to the headquarters of World
the mothership. The mothership, yeah.
All of a sudden they're there on the air trying to defend themselves. And they wanted to say, it's too early to evaluate those two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They wanted to say that, Dak Prescott played behind a dominant offensive line, veteran offensive line in Dallas. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the Los Angeles Rams have one of the top three defensive lines in the entire NFL, Charlton. They led the league in sacks last year.
Yeah.
But, I got to look at Matt Castle last year with Dallas once Tony Romo was hurt, and also Brandon Wheaton.
Yeah.
Neither one of these quarterbacks, veteran NFL quarterbacks, could win a game playing behind that same offensive line. And one other thing, Charlton, Tyron Smith did not play. They're all pro left tackle who played at USC. I got to give you that.
Wait, hold on, Big C. Wait, what school did he play at, Big C? What tackle? I kind of missed what you said.
Well, he played at USC, and I'm not sure whether that was South Carolina.
The Trojans, baby. Just go, Trojans. Just win, baby.
But when you think about it, they only had 4 of their starting offensive line, but they could not give Dak Prescott any praise for the performance that he put on because he just outshined Jeff Goff.
Hey, Big
this
Z.
guy that they laid the Rams franchise on looked like a secondary draft pick compared to Dak Prescott, who came out of Mississippi State. And probably their best all-time player in history, Charlie.
Yeah.
Then they have to defend Carson Wentz. And I spoke many times that Carson Wentz had never seen NFL speed.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things he hadn't seen that he had to face.
Yeah.
Practice is different than games, Charlton. He got into game. Like I said, he got injured by a strong safety because he didn't recognize the speed of a strong safety coming out of the college. He could have lose that.
Right.
But in the pro game, his whatever 4.6, 4.7, 40 times.
4.9. He ran a 4.9. He ran a 4.9 40, Big C. And I like the kid. I'm not knocking him, but 4.9. You can't even play in high school with a 4.9 out in California, Big C.
Well, that's offensive lineman speed. Okay.
Yeah.
If you get an offensive lineman that runs that, you're doing okay. But you got a quarterback who can't outrun these defensive linemen who run 4.7. So you're going to have problems with this guy and he's statuesque standing in the pocket. But, it's quite ironic that they bring him in to defend these two guys.
Yeah.
But they gave no praise to Dak Prescott, Cordell Jones, or Jacoby Jones in New England.
No praise.
So what's the deal? And I'm going to say it with ESPN. Is this racially biased that a black quarterback outperforms the white quarterbacks that are getting paid all the money and the black quarterbacks are getting paid less?
Yeah.
But you can't talk about how well they perform and how wrong you were. That's the honesty that comes from real talk radio, Charlton, with Charlton and Big C.
Well,
we're real. We're telling the truth. And we want the listeners to determine who's accurate and who's inaccurate.
Well, Big C, this is something that happens in the world of sports. It's very competitive. But I think most people, if they understand the reality here, is oftentimes if you're Caucasian male and you want to play quarterback, the NFL, they have a desire to have more white quarterbacks playing. They embrace it. And the reason they embrace it is because there was a time where it might be painful to hear, but they excluded African-American males from playing professional football at the NFL level. And since integration, they've allowed people to play best of the best talent. Well, now if you look at the league, it's about 70% African American. They don't want the quarterback position, which was considered the leadership position, quote unquote. They don't want that to look like the running back position, where it's mostly black. They don't want it to look like the wide receivers, where it's mostly black, because they still have an issue of having leadership have a black skin, Big C. And that's why guys like Warren Moon have to go to Canada. You have even some of the guys like Doug Williams that threw 5 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, couldn't find a job again. You have guys like Randall Cunningham, that was amazing. They never got called. And I see, this to me, we talk about having a social impact, and I don't just want to be a dumb sycophant jock, so you got to tune into another station for that. But the same thing that's happening at the quarterback position is the same thing that happens in corporate America. Tim Wise, who's a white author, he's a Jewish guy, he talked about this. It's called white skin privilege. And Goodell knows it's true. That's why they have the Rooney Rule, to force some of these good old boys to at least give black men an opportunity, or Hispanic men an opportunity. And white guys know it's true.
An interview. They don't give them opportunity.
Well, yeah, it's an interview. But the reality is, Big C, and the young kids are the hope for our future. But if the NFL is going to be just like corporate America back in the 1970s, then we have a long way to go. Because the reality is, if you're going to be a bias, at least admit you're biased. Just say you want white quarterbacks. And that's a fact. Because you have guys that were maligned, and if they have the media talking heads do it, then the owners can say, hey, well, that wasn't my opinion. But they know that they endorse this unspoken rule, just like they don't want women to be in charge. They don't want black men to be in charge of their quarterbacks either, at the quarterback position. That's just a fact, because most of these owners are old and white, and it takes them a long time to realize they'd rather lose with a white guy than win with a black guy. Big C, is that egregious to say, or is that pretty close, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's a pretty good analysis when you think, we've talked about the playoffs last season. 5 starting black quarterbacks in the NFL. 3 of them made the playoffs, Charlton. 1 went to the Super Bowl. Now, that's a pretty good damn percentage.
I think so, Big C.
Productivity of an African-American quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, you tell me what was the percentage of white quarterbacks that did not make the playoffs. And people will come back with the analogy, so there's more whites than blacks. That's society in America, okay?
Yeah.
But they were less productive than the few blacks that you gave an opportunity to. So you got to speak of it as volume, Charlton, the total volume of it. If we have more African-American quarterbacks, how many playoff teams will be dominated by African-American quarterbacks, Charlton? That's the key, and that's what you're trying to keep out. Let me give you a perfect example of a quarterback, Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Okay? Didn't do a dang thing last year, Charlton. Everybody blamed it on his injury.
No, that's not true. That's not true, Big C. He cashed every paycheck they gave him, so you can't say he didn't go to the bank. Okay, he went to the bank, Big C.
He got well off, and he got paid during the offseason for doing nothing. He got $144 million, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, I look at his career in parallel with Robert Griffin. Now, they came out at the same time. Robert Griffin had a bad year, couldn't start anymore in Washington, okay?
Yeah.
So, because of injuries. What happens if Andrew Luck has consecutive bad years in Indianapolis? Is it on the team, or is it on Andrew Luck?
It's the team's fault.
Off this season, Charlton,
it's the team's fault,
and comes out and have the same statistical numbers that he had last year prior to his injury. Who are they going to blame? The offensive linemen, the receivers, the running back, the head coach? Can't be Andrew Luck's fault. Now, I'm not saying Andrew Luck is not a great player.
Right.
But the way you judge and gauge these players in parallel with each other, that white player in Andrew Luck gets a different grade than what that black player in RG3 got, Charlton.
Well, see, Big C, and I'll bring this up too, because when I go back and I look at the USA Today, they had an edition when they were talking about the best players coming out of college football, and they had the endorsements of guys like Mel Kiper and Tom Messi. And I like watching Mel Kiper on TV, but he's just not accurate. I mean, if you want to put people on TV, he's not accurate.
Anybody can throw spaghetti up against the wall, and 1 or 2 strands will click. I mean, it's like the NFL draft when they had it last year.
Yeah.
They got 3 of the first 32 play 31 because New England didn't have a pick.
Yeah.
3 of the first 31 correct. I mean, that's a good percentage, I guess, if you're getting paid a couple $1 million to be a prognosticator.
Yeah. Didn't you say that a monkey was more accurate than Mel Kiper? They had a monkey that was picking. Is that true?
In the past couple of years, they have used the monkey to select the first round draft pick, and he has beaten Mel Kiper by about 50-60%.
Okay, well, ironically though, but I'm just saying, It's funny because
Charlton, one other thing.
Yes, sir.
The monkey was black.
Okay, okay. Obviously, so that monkey won't have a job for ESPN. That's for sure. There seem to be an exodus of color when it comes to ESPN. Now we got to bring it up on Charlton and Big C Sports because it's real sports talk, and a lot of people just won't cover the issues. But I'm here about being an entrepreneur. I'm here talking about having equality, and I know there are a lot of black announcers and broadcasters. They're afraid to speak up to anyone because they're afraid to lose their job, and that's okay. That's how the media wants it to be. But at least with us, I want you to know you don't have to agree with what we're saying, but you just got to say if we're wrong or not. When I looked at the top quarterbacks, they were trying to pump into the American consciousness. They kept pushing Carson Wentz, and I hope that man makes it. But I never saw him play Alabama, USC, Texas, or Ohio State. And they talked about Jared Goff. He was not even considered a threat in the Pac-12 conference, Big C. They were always a team that played from behind, so they threw the ball a lot.
Cardale Jones' junior year.
Yeah.
Junior year, Ohio State won more games than Cordell Jones' sophomore year at Ohio State, and Jared Goff won his entire career at Cal over a 3-year span.
Yeah, and so if we don't talk about it, I'm about equality. I just want men, especially young black men, quit being afraid. I mean, Dr. King already gave every sacrifice you can give, and we have a lot of young youth right now that are looking for some leadership position. And when it comes to leadership, a lot of our guys are just sycophants. They're just happy to have a job. They don't stand for anything other than cashing their paycheck. So I don't expect them to be as bold as we are, Big C. But I will say this. When you talk about, I think there was a movie called 300, and it was about these warriors. They actually fought for what they believed in. And Dr. King gave so much. He didn't give his life for us to become sycophants men. And power only respects intelligence. They don't expect you if you're dumb. If you want to be perceived as a dumb black jock, don't say anything. Don't even challenge authority. And God forbid if Martin Luther King had that mentality when he was marching and serving so everyone would have equality. It's for all people. But I got to make this point, Big C, because if we don't, you probably won't hear it anywhere else. When it comes to employment, I would love to see a world where all people are given the chance to compete. Not just given. I know we'll never be part of that cronyism, the good old boy network, because we're black men. We'll never be a part of that. But there are white men who are fair. And that's what's helped me in my life. They were fair because they realize what we're saying is true, Big C. And for the men who are afraid to talk about equality, it's never going to change unless you have a few good men who are willing to talk about it. And speaking of a few good men, this segment is sponsored by United Labor Insurance. Guaranteed life insurance up to $100,000 with no medical questions asked. We are also endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association. We are also working with all of the unions in the United States under the AFL-CIO. And unlike a lot of the people on ESPN, I'm looking to employ 1,000 licensed insurance brokers. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. We want to help put people to work. Also, Phil Knight, that's why $1 million investment in Charlton and Big C Sports is more important for your ROI. And also, Big C, I just want to ask you this question. You were also talking about the Olympics. Now, Simone Biles, I believe is her name. This woman is amazing, and I know that you guys in the South, I'm surprised you even know that we have the Olympics because you're always playing football, Big C. But what are your thoughts on her performances, Big C?
Well, you think about it, Charlton. She's the most decorated gymnast in American history. She has won 4 gold medals at this Olympics. She has a 5th in
fifth now, yeah.
But when you think about this, gymnastics in America, Charlton, 20 years ago, was an all-white sport.
Yeah.
There were no African-Americans competing, or they were said they couldn't compete, that they were too bulky, they were too muscular.
Yeah.
They weren't coordinated enough, that this was a white sport. But if you look at the last 2 Olympics, how they've been dominated, Charlton, by African-American women. Gabby Douglas 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And now Simone Biles, Charlton.
Yeah.
It shows when given an opportunity, regardless of race, that if you have the heart of an athlete and the competitive spirit, you can win. You know, it's like right now, everybody is trying to do the comparison between Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
Both 2 of the greatest Olympians of all time.
Amazing.
But as a sprinter, Charlton, you only get really 3 chances to run. You get the 100 meters, you get the 200 meters, and you get the 4x100 relay.
Yes.
Michael Phelps can compete in 5 to 8 events.
Yeah.
In each Olympics, Charlton. So he has multiple opportunities to win, and Michael has been great. He's been
amazing.
An iconic figure for America and for the world to show what perseverance can do, even when you have hardship outside the arena, that you can come back and withstand that and still produce at that championship level.
Yeah.
But, you know, I find it ironic that the world is out there trying to compare these two athletes. They're great
They're both
individuals
great. They're both great
in their own light.
Yeah.
I don't think Michael Phelps can run down the track, and I don't think Usain Bolt can swim in the pool.
Exactly.
So how do you cross-compare these two tremendous athletes and try to make it a competition between them? Who's the best?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Big C. Sometimes it's just people looking for another story, but I want to bring this point up because their excellence. Could you imagine with the greatness of Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt, if they played in the NFL? Just think about this for a second. Michael Phelps would be the one praised, but Usain Bolt being a very dominant athlete, they would want to move him to wide receiver because they would not want someone so dominant being in that position. I think that's why Cam Newton comes under a lot of fire. They want him to not be like Aaron Rodgers. They don't want him to be celebratory like Joe Montana was. Even though these guys were, he gets a lot of criticism for it. And I want to bring this up too. Because in the world of sports, you will never find other black men talking the way we talk on the national radio. You just won't. Because they're controlled and they're afraid. Okay, I don't want them to be afraid. Just be a little bit bold. Kind of like what we do all the time. Be a little bit bold and speak your mind. Big C, I want to talk about this thing about the USA basketball. Some of these guys are coming under some flack because they're being told that they don't win by a large enough margin, even though a lot of the guys they're playing against, they play in the NBA, Big C. So if they're not winning by 20 and 30 points, people are saying that this is not a good basketball team coached by Coach Krzyzewski. Is that a little bit of pushback against the black athlete, Big C? Because if they were from any other country, they would celebrate them for being so dominant, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Charlton, it is a pushback against the black athletes. You got to realize that the NBA now is a world organization. Every team has a foreign player playing on an NBA team now.
Yeah.
And so when you look at these guys, it's not like they're new and naive. They're walking out there playing against competitors that they've played against throughout the season, so they know their game.
Yeah.
You know, when you go back to the Dream Team, Charlton, some 20 years ago, and how dominant they were, players were just in awe of these guys, Charlton, because they had not seen them before.
Yeah.
Now players show up. They're not in awe of the USA basketball team because they see them for 82 games during the regular season.
Yeah.
So they understand what it takes to win at this level. So to say that these guys are not as good as the Dream Team, no, they're not, Charlton. The Dream Team was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, such as a Michael Jordan, a Larry Bird, a Wilt Chamberlain, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a Magic Johnson, an Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell. These were once-in-a-lifetime jewels. So you can't keep expecting to keep reloading with players who are playing against their teammates on an international level, Charles.
Well, Big C, speaking of an international level, I want to tell everyone looking to advertise, if you want to advertise, you've heard about real estate, location. With iHeartRadio, the platform is bigger than Fox Sports, it's bigger than ESPN, it's bigger than CBS Sports, it's bigger than ABC Sports. So whether you're Phil Knight or if you're any person looking to advertise, especially you oil barons from Dubai, you want to advertise on the hottest growing sports show in the United States, tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. It's real sports talk. It's not watered down. We don't have a producer in our ear. Big C does his thing with moonshine, and I think he has a soft pillow, Big C. Is it a hard pillow or a soft pillow, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I had to wake myself up. The alarm was going off, and I didn't even realize it.
Okay.
I didn't have somebody come in and shoot me.
I didn't know you good old boys would sleep. In fact, when you think of Big C and the kind of lifestyle he lives, if anyone ever heard of Burt Reynolds and Jackie Gleason, there was a movie called Smokey and the Bandit. Okay, those are the good old boys that I think Big C used to hang out with. The fact that he has a lot of ethereal knowledge on sports, I'm always even more impressed by the fact that he's a moonshine drinker, and he's also one of the he's the Second Amendment activist too, but he's very intelligent. And what I want to ask you, Big C, in the next minute, like no one can do but you, because you have about 40 years experience, I had an NFL attorney tweet out to us on Charlton and Big C Sports. She actually wants to talk to us. But tell Phil Knight or a Warren Buffett or a Paul Allen why they should advertise on Charlton and Big C Sports, because it's a great return on their investment. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, you look at these other programs that they deal with that are called worldwide leaders and top-ranked shows. Charlton, they do that because they have a number of stations that they can blast the airwaves. But when you look at them, they've lost all the quality talent that they've had, Charlton, on the air over the past decade.
Yeah.
And they're leaving for a reason. And when you look at what they're replacing with, Charlton, anybody can read a teleprompter. But do you read this teleprompter with emotion? Are you able to elaborate and inject into that teleprompter? No, you're not, Charlton. So what you're doing is getting a bland, red scenario and telling you that this is what sports is.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever been to a live sporting event or even watched it on television, Charlton, understand that it's about spontaneity. It is about continuous action. There's nothing scripted about a live sporting event. Now, you might watch a reality television show, Charlton, and think that's real.
Hey, wait a minute, Big C. Don't talk about Kim Kardashian. I think she's as great as Sarah Palin. In fact, she would make a great first lady, even as long as Kanye West not the president, Big C. But that's my reality pitch. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, if both of them got into a debate, I think it might last about 2 minutes.
Okay, that sounds
both
good.
of them going to sit there, what do I think? Okay. But when you look at sports, and I think it's a disservice that all the broadcasters are doing now, is that they're lying to the public.
Yeah.
You're thinking that the public is not naive and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they have these fantasy leagues, because you have these guys sitting at home, sitting in their garage, sitting in their basement, able to go out and draft and build organizations, whether it's basketball, football, baseball.
Yeah.
And they're more knowledgeable than the guys on television giving them the information. So you have to look at the people that you're putting out front, ESPN, Fox, all of these programs. Why are you lying to the public? Why do you got these people that are not delivering a quality product?
Yeah.
Even though you say, hey, we're the worldwide leader. No, you're the worldwide broadcast leader. You're not the worldwide leader in knowledge. And that's what the sports fans want. They want knowledge. They want truth. They want current. They want history. They want to be entertained, Charlton. And when they walk away from a program, they want to say, hey, I learned something today, or I don't like those guys. One of the two.
Well, Big C, that is very powerful. And this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What could a buck for you do for you? I'm telling you, Big C, I bought that winning ticket tonight for Mega Million. It's about $55 million. So, Joey Bosa, I feel your pain. It's not a lot of money, but I'll take it, Big C. It's chump change. Okay, I understand, Big C. But we do have to pay taxes on that money. And I want to bring this up because we're about being socially conscious. We're not dumb jocks. ESPN, they're running this thing on fantasy football, okay? Fantasy football, contrast that with Charlton and Big C Phil Knight. We're trying to say, give computers to inner city kids because some kids in the inner cities, they don't have computers. You might assume they do because a lot of suburban schools do, but there are a lot of schools where the kids don't have computers, so how are they going to create employment if they don't have access to computers? There's the same thing that happens in Silicon Valley or in the Hamptons or other parts of, say, Beverly Hills, other parts of the country where they're affluent. They have access to computer skills so they can learn math and science. If we can't learn math and science, how are we going to compete with kids from India and China? And that would be a way to solve the problems if we look at how to employ people in the inner cities. Also, when they have more money, Phil Knight, they can actually buy your $500 tennis shoes. Because that's important. So everyone who's socially conscious, I'm asking you to look at Charlton and Big C Sports compared to ESPN and Fox. Yes, we are very competitive. I love our brethren. But just like Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt and Allison Felix, we want to compete for your money. We want to compete for your advertising dollar. And speaking of that, Big C, talking about competition, would you believe that LeBron James, I know we've kind of criticized him a lot over the years, but LeBron James has manned up. LeBron James, unlike Michael Jordan, he's offered $41 million to help send 1,000 kids to college that are from impoverished backgrounds, as long as they have the desire to do the work, Big C. So LeBron James offering to send, think about it, over 1,000 kids to go to college on his dime, and that's a 4-year education, so they can't go to Kentucky because Calipari only keeps them for a year, Big C, and we know that's true. So Kentucky might be left out, but if you think about the heart of LeBron James, I've gained a lot more respect for LeBron James in the last month than I have in his whole career, because as an African-American male, I despise men who are just intellectually vapid, who are afraid to stand up and do things that are going to make life better for the next generation. Black and white, doesn't matter what color you are. He didn't say he's only going to send black kids to college. He says kids that are economically challenged. What if Phil Knight had the same heart that LeBron James has? And yes, we're asking for your sponsorship, but not if we have to be sycophants to it. So, Big C, I just want your thoughts on what LeBron James did. That's the Ali consciousness we talked about.
Well, Charlton, in the South, we call that cowboying up, okay?
Yeah.
That man, as they say, he's got bull cojones out.
Yeah, I applaud him.
He walked out on front of the stage, bypassed everyone, and sucker punch people who didn't think that he could do stuff.
Yeah.
But LeBron James has set a precedent of economic and educational value.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be a lead story on ESPN for the next couple of days.
No.
Because what it does, Charlton, is that it benefits those who didn't have the opportunity before.
Yeah.
And so that's a challenge to the establishment, Charlton, that he's trying to create equality, such as Dr. King had spoke about.
Yeah.
Creating equality, and we talked about it through economics. That's what creates equality in America, is economics. We've called on a lot of athletes to step forward, but we've also called on
corporate America, yeah.
Who controls the economy of America, Charlton. They have to create the equality. ESPN, why don't they match what LeBron James has done? They talk about him all the time. He makes them a lot of money.
No, they're doing fantasy. ESPN is doing fantasy football when LeBron James is giving $41 million to help kids go to school. ESPN, the sports leader, they're doing this sycophant game of fantasy football to keep everybody dumbed down in our society.
Well, okay, Charlton, answer this question for me. Is fantasy football free to join these leagues? No.
No, it's a money thing.
ESPN is making money off of FanDuel and fantasy football. They're taking from the public where you could sit in the garage and do it for free with buddies in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
But ESPN feels that they have to take money from the viewers to be able to put together this fantasy league. I mean, I played in a fantasy league the year after I retired. Won all but one game, couldn't play anymore. Everybody figured I was a ringer.
Yeah.
But I knew football. And I didn't care to go take these guys' money anymore. I was in it for the joy of the game because I knew players.
Yeah.
It wasn't about big names. It was about productive names.
Yeah.
Who produce things. And I knew that. And so, ESPN, make it free. Make it free for the listeners, the viewers out there, that fantasy football is free. Just like LeBron James has made it free for 1,000 kids to go to college.
Yeah, so...
And what LeBron did, everybody doesn't have LeBron money, but step up at that percentage of where LeBron is. Whether you're NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and Charlton. These damn professional golfers with their smallest tights, they got
golfers.
They got rubber bands around them. They're not going to give up anything, but they should participate.
Golfers have no
inner city kids with an education.
Golfers have no social they just want to be perceived as dumb jocks. Okay, they don't care that their kids think they're stupid, and there's nothing more insulting than a kid thinking his daddy's dumb. Okay, and I'm being very poignant here because it's true. There's so many people that open doors for young black kids to get into media and to get into sports, and for a lot of people to behave like Michael Jordan behaved over the years. He didn't care because he had his billions of dollars. But who's going to make life better for the next person coming up? So when you look at the Olympics, we have people like Gabby, we have kids like Simone, Allison Felix, all of these people going back to Carl Lewis, even Jesse Owens. They took a stand for something, Big C. We're not going to live forever. We all want to live a long, fruitful life. But if you can't do something to make life better for the next generation, don't call yourself Muhammad Ali conscious. Don't even say you like Muhammad Ali, because he was not a sycophant. So if you're afraid, at least just lean on his shoulders, Big C. And speaking of leaning on shoulders, this final segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. I'm a life insurance broker for One Life America. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. I'm also looking to employ 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to go to work protecting American families. You can tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Now, Big C, I want to get into something real quick here. I want to just say my thoughts and prayers go out to Rod Gilmore. He is an analyst, actually, for ESPN, and I met Rod Gilmore back at Stanford University in 1996. I was actually spotting a football game when he was on a network there as a color analyst, and I learned a lot just watching his professionalism. His wife is actually, I think she's the mayor of Alameda County, but he's just been diagnosed with a form of cancer. It's a blood cancer, but he's probably going to beat it, and we hope and pray for him. He's actually going to call the game South Carolina at Vanderbilt down in the Southeastern Conference, Big C. Here's an African-American male who's come out publicly for ESPN and said that he's had the issue of having a cancer, which we hope with Vice President Joe Biden, we can put an end to this. We can find a way to cure this. But I just want to get your thoughts on Gilmore, Big C, because he's an African-American analyst. He's excellent. One of the few that have been given a job by ESPN long term. But I'm pulling for him, Big C. He was very gracious to me when I met him 20 years ago. Your thoughts on Rod Gilmore?
Well, Rod Gilmore is a tremendous representation of the African-American community, Charlton. He played football at Stanford. He has represented the African-American culture well on television. Very articulate, knowledgeable, and prepared for every game that he has done, Charlton. And that's what you have to look at. I mean, right now, when you look at the people that they're tossing on the air, I mean, they're tossing on people on the air that are totally unprepared, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you have to deal with these people throughout a broadcast. And that's not sports. You're putting them out there because of their name. And you think that name is what everybody wants to hear. It's just like with you and I.
Yeah.
I care if nobody knows my name.
Yeah.
But I care about if somebody understands the knowledge that I'm trying to share with them, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's what a broadcaster is supposed to do. He is supposed to share his knowledge and enlighten the audience, Charlton. Once he does that for them, now they've gained an experience. Rod Gilmore did that week in, week out on college football.
Yeah.
Whether it was at a game or whether it was at the studio show. The representation that he brought to the audience was total professionalism, Charlton.
Yeah, he played football at Stanford. He graduated in 1982, and he also has a law degree from the University of California, Berkeley. And I think that's so important because here's a man who did everything the right way. So what if we could create 1,000 Rod Gilmores in the African-American community? Kids that can understand it's okay to be a lawyer. It's okay to get an education. It's okay to be a top-notch analyst on television. And what does ESPN do today? They're playing fantasy football as opposed to telling young kids how they can pursue a law degree, how they can pursue being an insurance broker or a real estate broker or the next computer programmer or an entrepreneur, because I can guarantee you the kids in the Silicon Valley, which is the wealthiest area in California in the south part of the Bay Area, all of their kids have computers. All of their kids understand math and science. So Rod Gilmore, I applaud you for your excellence as a leader and as a broadcaster. I'm pulling for you. I know you're going to beat this. But I just want to say, Big C, when we talk about the iHeartRadio network, I'm so proud of what you bring to the program, Big C, because you do it without a teleprompter. I remember we were talking to someone up here in Sacramento that works with Fox Sports, and she was amazed that we do this without teleprompters and that we do this without something in our ear. And that's why I'm saying, Phil Knight, you may miss out on sponsoring Charlton and Big C Sports the same way you missed out on sponsoring Steph Curry with Under Armour. And their stock at Under Armour has gone through the roof because they understand talent when it's in front of them. So for anyone who's trying to get socially conscious people on the air so you don't have that dumb jock mentality, so the younger kids can realize it's okay to read 60 minutes a day. It's okay to think. It's okay to be an entrepreneur. Big C, I applaud you for that because you stepped outside of the box and you said, we're going to do a show, but we're not just going to read the scores that the Yankees beat the Braves 7-5 or the Red Sox beat the Orioles 6-4. And so I applaud you on that. In the last few minutes, ESPN is telling their broadcasters they want them dumbed down. They don't want them to talk about politics. They don't want them to be socially conscious. They just want dumb broadcasters. I'm not saying everyone is dumb, but if you have any intellect, why would you not share that? Why are we doing fantasy football? We could have 1,000 people participating in the stock market. That would be better for the American economy, and they could go out and buy more stuff. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, what I look at with the NFL starting up, and you look at the number of broadcasters that ESPN has that are former players now, I don't get any insight from those guys, Charlton, and I play the game like they did. But they don't tell me anything insightful that will entice me, that will encourage me about the opponent or the event. They're talking from script, Charlton. As a former player, you should be able to talk from your heart.
Yeah.
You don't need a teleprompter.
Yeah.
You know what happens in certain situations, whether it's blitz coverage, whether it's a trap play, whether it's a hot route.
Yeah.
You know that. So you can recognize these things, and you tell what sets these things up. You know how to set up a series. But I don't hear that from these broadcasters on television. Charlton, they are so mundane and vanilla when they're on air about broadcasting and speaking. It's almost a waste of time. They can keep the women up there talking about football at the level that these retired athletes do, Charlton.
Yeah.
So I think ESPN, as well as these guys, are doing a great injustice. If you look at the pregame show for Sunday morning, they've lost 3 African-Americans off this show.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, Keyshawn Johnson, and now Tom Jackson are leaving. That was the heart of the show. Yes, Chris Berman is a show, but these were the inside people that talked about when they played, how things occurred, what you did, how you kept a team in perspective, how you handled the young guys in an organization, Charlton, or if you had a veteran that was too disruptive, as a group, you go in and say, hey, he's got to go.
Yeah, got to go, Big C. Yeah.
That's real.
That's real talk.
So, and we don't get that on ESPN anymore. We get this watered-down version of, hey, guys, Don't be radical. Read the script.
Just be
don't
dumb.
Give us your thoughts.
Just be dumb. Dumb, sycophant sports brief. Just read the sports. Be dumb, and don't let people know you're intelligent. Final segment, Big C. This segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. Make a donation today. Is easy, is fast, and secure. And contact Cynthia Evans of CYN Entertainment when it comes to promotions. She's the best in Northern California. Also want to thank Becca, the Business Cupid, for helping hook up for advertisers coming up, Big C. In the last segment of the program, Big C, I just want to say this because I'm so grateful to be on the iHeartRadio network. I know we started out back in the day at some Salem Media, and we've been around the block, done many different things on national radio and TV, but I love the fact that we can actually reach people who are socially conscious. We're in the election year. We want people to be erudite. We want people to be educated. We want people to think. And I think for young black boys that find out that Charlton and Big C happen to be African-American men, you should be proud of the fact that we're on the air. We're on the largest platform in the United States. And I'm asking people who want to go to work, just tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. Let me know that you're looking for work in the insurance or industry or even the real estate industry. We can put you to work. I just want people to not be afraid anymore, Big C. If you don't stand for something, at least do it for your kids. Do it for the next generation. The same way Dr. Martin Luther King did, and even Malcolm X, who taught to people about being responsible, Big C. So for any sponsor that wants to advertise, if you find a bigger network than the iHeartRadio network at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, then talk to them. But I guarantee you, put our show against theirs and take away the teleprompters and see where you get the best ROI for your money. Big C, I'll let you close it out on the world of sports and your final thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I've heard a lot of people say, we're a racially divided show. We're not. We're a socially divided show. But we talk about real issues, whether they're social, whether they're sports. And what we say is factual. All you have to do is do the research. Doing the research doesn't make it a racial show.
Yeah.
It's about telling the truth, Charlton. And if the truth is black and white, then you have to explain it that way. You just can't sit back and say, hey, well, things have always been this way. No, things change in life, Charlton.
Yeah.
Everything changes but a fool. And so if you want to sit back and be a fool to what has occurred throughout history and say, hey, you can't change things, you have to change things, Charlton. And change starts with communication.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what we do 5 days a week with our audience, is that communicate with them. And after the show is over, Charlton, I want everybody in our audience to always walk away and say, hey, if I didn't learn but one thing today, I did not expect that.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And so when you think about having a platform, I'm saying this to my brethren, whether it's ABC or ESPN, CBS, NBC, Fox Sports, we have an incredible platform, and someone might just believe what we're saying, so at least tell them the truth. You can always fact check everything that Charlton and Big C say. We may not be perfect, but we're very accurate, and we speak from the heart. And I want young kids to be bold again. Don't be afraid again, Big C. Yes, Big C.
We made one error last week, but we'll let that one slide.
We'll let that slide. Oh, that's when you said that Alabama's going to beat USC. Well, that was 2 errors because you said it twice, Big C. But we know, looking at the tape, Lynn Swann came back to work because he knew he was going to get a pay raise when they beat up on the good old boys from Alabama. And speaking of beating up on good old boys, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. We thank you for listening to Charlton and Big C Sports. And also, when it comes to women, protect our women. No violence against women. We know coming up on football season, it tends to happen a lot. But if you women, don't be silent. If someone puts a hand on you, just call 911. We want to be a social advocate for you. And every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, listen to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.